So remember when Rainbow Six was Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six and was actually a tactical shooter and not just a first-person Fortnite knockoff? But what if I told you that even Rainbow Six Vegas was hated by the core Rainbow Six fans? Remember when Rainbow Six was a PC game with deep and intricate planning phases and not just a Call of Duty knockoff? Yeah, that's the 2006 version of the outrage. This franchise already went through a massive overhaul 20 years ago where it alienated its core fan base but attracted a much bigger one. Rainbow Six Vegas is thought of very fondly nowadays, so I wanted to see how well it holds up. Spoiler alert, I loved it, but it doesn't mean that you will too. Let me explain. So it's 2005 and Ubisoft has already published a bunch of Rainbow Six games to varying degrees of success. Early titles were already achieving the cult classic status and Rainbow Six 3 Raven Shield was a relative success. The next game, however, Lockdown, was met with quite a lukewarm reception as it seemingly abandoned a lot of the hardcore tactics and strategy that was present in Raven Shield and streamlined the gameplay quite a bit in an attempt to bring the game over to consoles. Do you go back to the more hardcore style of Raven Shield, or do you double down on Lockdown, streamline the game even more and make it even more accessible on console? Ubisoft went with the second option. Rainbow Six Vegas controls very differently than its predecessor and focuses more on cinematic storytelling, has a distinct protagonist and supporting cast, more action-packed gameplay, but despite all the streamlining, it still keeps that core DNA of Rainbow Six rooted in tactics and planning. Sure, there may not be any pre-mission planning screens and customizing the waypoints and such. The game, however, gives you more options to utilize tactics in real time by giving the player much more fluid and simple controls that allows them to adapt on the fly instead of restarting and replanning the entire mission as in Raven Shield. The game was released to critical acclaim and Rainbow Six quickly found a loyal player base on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3.
We have several casinos under attack. Police have engaged the terrorists. Bowstring's been released on all Delta squadrons, but until they arrive, we have a green light on all ops.
What's the objective?
The terrorists are broadcasting their demands, and we have to put a stop to that. But first, you need to rescue reporter Trish Gracie from an exclusive with the terrorists that went wrong.
Now, despite the fact that this game is apparently more story and character focused, its story and characters were really nothing spectacular. The plot revolves around a cliché terrorist plot led by Irina Morales, whose motives remain vague throughout the game. It all starts with Logan Keller and his squad in Mexico on a mission that takes a dramatic turn when his squad is captured and Logan barely makes it out alive. The action then shifts to Las Vegas, where Irina and her group wreak havoc on the strip. Logan is provided with a new team and they fight through a series of casinos and iconic locations with objectives ranging from defusing bombs to rescuing scientists, but nothing really more than that. At some point it is revealed that Logan's original team member Gabe is working with Irina and betrayed Rainbow back in Mexico. The story culminates at the Hoover Dam where the terrorists are plotting a rocket strike, which Logan and his team prevent. You kill Irina, but Gabe escapes and the game sets him up as the main villain in Vegas 2, with this awkward and clunky to be continued cliffhanger, leaving Novak's betrayal and the broader consequences unaddressed. I honestly don't really know what to say about the actual plot. It continues obviously in Vegas 2, but I have a lot to say about the storytelling and delivery. You see, there aren't any cutscenes or cinematics while the game is loading or anything like that. Your handler, Joanna, will randomly pop up in the top left corner and dump some exposition on you in the most inconvenient of times, usually while you're fighting for your life and trying to commandeer your squad. The sound quality is also pretty poor, as her voice is usually blurred behind this radio filler, and to top it all off, the game doesn't have any subtitles whatsoever, so good luck following anything. I actually had to read about the story on the wikis after I beat the game. The game will sometimes have these set pieces, if you can call them set pieces, throughout the game, but they're so clunky in execution that sometimes I would just run past them and completely miss the fact that I was supposed to be watching this.
Maybe you lost the scene, but you're too late! Try stopping the missile now!
I'm heading for the blast-proof door. Open it on my mark, then you and Michael get your asses up here.
And what also doesn't help is the fact that a lot of these voice actors seem to have phoned it in big time, and some of them have these really weird accents. Nothing wrong with accents, but at least to me it was pretty difficult to understand them amidst all the gunfire, the obnoxiously loud music, and the stupid radio filters. Look, I see the irony of me complaining about weird accents, but at least I had the decency to put subtitles on my videos. Rainbow Six Vegas doesn't.
Hey Logan, sorry about Mexico.
That makes two of us. Jump!
Sir, we studied the casino's blueprints. The tangos have the entry points covered.
So we'll go through the wall. The buggles won't expect that.
Okay then, the plot is bad, the characters are bad, the dialogue is bad, but I still loved playing this game because thankfully the gameplay and the setting are so freaking awesome. While you're hiding from bullets with the newly added cover system, which is actually pretty intuitive and works really well for this game, you're going to be showered in chips from the broken slot machines and blinded by all the particles and next-gen effects. While the game doesn't really look all that good nowadays, its lighting and textures are pretty dated, I cannot deny the sublime atmosphere of Rainbow Six Vegas.
Sound suppressors off.
Copy that.
You are weapons free.
Logan, I've got tangos on the roof! They're heading your way!
You're gonna want to micromanage Michael and Young, your squad mates, and if you fail to do so, you're gonna have a bad time. The game is very difficult, and you will get overwhelmed and killed if you don't cover your flanks with Michael and Young. But once you get in the groove of using these two properly, you're in for a well-orchestrated section after section of breach and clear, which never gets old. There's almost this rhythm that you need to figure out to the gameplay, and once it clicks, it's fucking awesome. Clearing multiple levels in a row without a major hiccup made me feel like an absolute badass, especially since as a player you don't have any special abilities or overpowered weapons. You're on the same level playing field as the terrorists, as you're clearing them out one by one, room by room. It's all thanks to your tactics and good use of your squad. You can use Michael and Young to act as a distraction while you go around and flank, and vice versa. Maybe you wanna hold your ground and suppress the enemies while you send your buddies around. A lot of the level layout is such that you can take multiple flanking paths and do some really cool pincer maneuvers. While the squad commands are a bit more streamlined than Brothers in Arms, there's no suppression circles or anything like that, and you can only control one squad. The level design here allows you to execute the fix 'em and flank 'em tactic much more frequently and easily than in Brothers in Arms. My only gripe is that I wish we could control each of the squad mates individually, akin to Mass Effect. The good ones, not Andromeda. You cannot have this amazing and thrilling gunfights in an open world game, and apart from Mass Effect, I'm so sad no other game seems to have tried to copy this style of gameplay. And I'm not talking just about the squad commands. The key component is the linear structure with open areas and engaging handcrafted encounters. The enemy AI is relentless too. They will not just sit on their asses and wait for you to pick them off. These guys will look for opportunities to flank and overwhelm you. They will use flashbangs, frags, smokes, and even breaching charges, same as you. There's only two difficulties here, normal and realistic, and both of them are very fun. Normal of course is a bit easier, but still very challenging. Realistic will kick your ass, but you won't feel like you're dying due to bullshit. Like I said, the enemies are on the same level playing field as you, the player. I had some doubts when I started playing this game, mainly due to the dated graphics, and the Mexico section really wasn't all that engaging from a gameplay perspective, but once I got to Vegas and started clearing out these casinos, my god, it was so addictive, and my impression of Rainbow Six Vegas took a complete turn. I was enthralled by the suspense and the adrenaline clearing these levels. I loved it.
Prepare for entry.
Okay, some bad stuff now. Weapon models look huge. They easily take up a good third of your screen and block your view completely. I hated this. I much prefer the weapon size in Call of Duty 4 and some classic Call of Duties, where they would be nicely tucked in the bottom right quarter of the screen. The gun is there for you to appreciate it, but it doesn't get in the way. Rainbow Six Vegas is the complete opposite. Don't even bother taking a FAMAS or P90 that have these huge rails and scopes at the top. Although I must admit that the P90 magazine animation looked nice. The mag actually showed the amount of bullets you have left in your mag. And that's about the only nice thing I can say about these weapon models. They are horrendous. There's no sense of what is plastic or what is metallic in these materials. All guns look like cheap plastic toys. Call of Duty 2 came out at around the same time, and while its weapon models don't have any metallic properties on the guns, they would use this bluish tint in their base texture to indicate that this is metal. Speaking of Call of Duty 2, my god, the graphics difference is insane. If we go back to 2005, 2006, Call of Duty 2's graphics absolutely justified the upgrade to Xbox 360. Vegas actually never felt like a next-gen title. These graphics look barely better than some of the late-era PlayStation 2 games. The bloom and motion blur is off the charts here, and it wouldn't bother me that much if the image behind these effects looked nice, but it doesn't. Rainbow Six Vegas has this super weird thing with the shadows in more dimly lit areas where everything appears pitch black. The tone map in this game is a tragedy, and the baked lighting is so bad that no amount of post-processing from Reshade could fix this mess. Thankfully, Vegas 2 fixed this issue a bit. Introducing any form of ambient occlusion, either via your graphics card driver or Reshade, is completely futile, as what's the point of adding shading to shadows if the shadows are pitch black? I get what they were trying to do here with the art direction, and honestly the game does look quite distinct. Too bad that distinct look is, well, dated to say the least. Night vision and thermal vision goggles are absolutely useless. Night vision doesn't really brighten the image in darker areas, it just makes everything green, and thermal vision doesn't work past 2 or 3 meters in front of you and also gives you this nauseating fisheye effect, so I never use them.
Hustle.
Over there. Roger.
Forgive my pivot again to Mass Effect, but pre-Legendary Edition Mass Effect 2 and 3 also had these weird and crushed darker tones. There were no details in the shadows whatsoever, but thankfully someone made a mod which modifies a lot of the Unreal's engine's INI files to brighten up those shadows and give them more detail. This lends itself beautifully then to introduce some tone mapping and other effects via Reshade to restore that original look while keeping the increased fidelity in darker areas. Rainbow Six Vegas's modding scene is basically non-existent though. I wish someone smarter than me with experience in Unreal Engine 3 would look at these game files and produce something similar. Anyway, this is just me nitpicking the image quality, so let's get back to the more interesting stuff. Like the sound, it's awful. I swear I love Rainbow Six Vegas, but look, the dialogue is impossible to follow. There's no subtitles, and a lot of the dialogue happens while you're in a gunfight, so good luck comprehending anything. When there is downtime and you can actually hear what they're talking about, the sound quality is so bad and crunchy that it just sounds amateur. There's also this bug that I'm not sure is present on the consoles, but on my PC installation, sometimes the sound files would overlap and produce this really awful ear destroyer.
Stack up.
Looks like they're getting a handle on the situation.
An hour or two, not longer. You ready? I'm always prepped for a fast.
The music, however, even though it's a tad too loud at some points where you're supposed to be following the dialogue, is present at all times, and it's pretty damn good. It complements the thrilling gameplay with these intense sounds that add to the overall chaos of gunfights. These tracks are something straight out of a Jason Bourne film, and I really appreciate its prominence throughout the game. I want to talk a bit more about the atmosphere and the setting of Rainbow Six Vegas. There was really nothing like it when it released. Usually these games would have these globe-trotting campaigns, but the settings were usually random warehouses, mansions, etc. So the casinos and the Vegas Strip was quite exotic. While the graphics aged very poorly, the physics effects in the shootouts on the casino floors are still epic. The terrorists are also shouting and talking to each other all the time, and also taunting you, which can result in some funny moments. If you try to be stealthy a bit, you can eavesdrop on their conversations, where you can see that they're not just generic baddies, they actually have some doubts against Irina and will comment on the events that are happening or have happened in the plot by that point. The guns sound visceral, and the sounds of glass and everything else breaking around you while you're hiding in cover is very immersive. There's not that many gadgets you can use. You've got a standard selection of grenades and breach and charge, which you can use yourself or tell your squad to breach and clear. This has never gotten old and I loved it. I was a bit annoyed that you can carry only 3 of these and then you're out until you reach a next resupply box, but thankfully Vegas 2 fixes this by giving you 10 of each equipment. Apart from that, you can use a snake cam to peek under the doors, and that's about it. Less is more seemed to have been Rainbow Six Vegas's direction, and it works, as what is here is very intuitive and well fleshed out. There's also a huge multiplayer component. There's obviously some PvP modes, but the meat of this game's online play is the terrorist hunt, which pits you and your friends against a map filled with bad guys to clear out. I remember playing this a lot with my friends on Vegas 2, but never in the first game, so I will not be focusing that much on the multiplayer here, as Vegas 2 is basically the better and more fleshed out version of this one, and that seems to have been the game that most people played for the online content. The game's campaign is also playable in 4-player co-op, but it removes pretty much all of the story and characters, so you're basically just clearing out the terrorists on the campaign levels. Having completed the story now solo, I would actually love to beat this in co-op as well.
We're alive.
RPG! Invasive! Freeze! We're hit! We're hit! We're going down! Evasive! Evasive!
Damn it! Get us on that bridge now!
So there we have it, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas. Despite showing its age and the lackluster story and characters, it still manages to prove an engaging and captivating experience purely due to the tight gameplay and controls, and also the amazing setting. Should you play it in 2024? Honestly, that's up to you. There's many flaws like I pointed out in the video, but the core is strong. It's a bit tricky to set up properly though. The game lacks widescreen support on PC, so you're gonna have to visit pcgamingwiki.com for a quick tutorial how to set up the more modern resolutions. The UI though will still be centered in this 4x3 box, but it's not a deal breaker by any means. There are ways to increase the FOV too, but I didn't bother as it seemed a bit unconventional. If you want to have those nice physics and effects, you're going to need some legacy PhysX drivers, and the links for those are on the wiki as well.
Conventional explosive that they moved to that building over there!
Bugger!
Look out!
Where's the MPB?
In the bar. But what about me?
Get to the elevator. SWAT's waiting downstairs. We're going.
Thank you so much for watching. Next up, of course, is Vegas 2. I'm really looking forward to it, as Vegas 2 is basically more of the same but better. In the meantime, I've created a Discord channel where you can come around and discuss these old-ass games. And hey, maybe we can set up some Rainbow Six Vegas co-op sessions and terrorist hunts. Subscribe so you know when the next video drops. Check out some of my older ones. Leave a comment. It lets the algorithm know that this is an engaging video. And yeah, see you soon.